on our picture slide, or do you want to start? Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for attending our session. We're going to be talking today about beverages, innovation, all the great opportunities we have. I'm Marilyn Hershey and I chair the DMI board. And with us we have Cristiano Alexander and Paul Zeminski, and both of them are key employees for us at DMI. They focus on the consumer trends and how we can have new innovations, new products, and get them out into the marketplace. Real quickly before I hand it over to them, the DMI board has had a fluid milk committee that we've had in place for the past 5 years, and the goal of that committee is to find those new innovations, to bring those new innovations to product, and so that we can continue to help consumers reach for milk, because it's very different, as you will see in the presentation. It's very different than it was 20, 25 years ago. So no further messages. I will hand this over to Paul.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Happy afternoon. Pleasure to be here. I love working for the dairy farmers. I grew up at Kraft Foods and cheese, and I launched a lot of the pizza lines from Tombstone to Giorno. Today I'll talk about the state of fluid milk quickly. I want to give you some key facts out there. There's a lot of fake news, and we'll address that. Chris will talk about today's consumer and what they're demanding. Talk about how companies are innovating to address those demands with beverage trends both domestically and globally. And I'll talk about what we're doing to work with the industry to grow fluid milk sales. So jumping right in, milk's still a powerhouse category. 94% of the houses in the US still have milk. Think about that. There's 117 million households. There's only 7 million that doesn't have milk in the US. Of the 117 million households, we have a 92% share of the milk and alternative beverages they buy in terms of volume. That's 3.2 billion gallons, almost $14 billion a year. Despite all the innovation we'll talk about that's been launched over the last 40 years, we still have a significant footprint, and we mean a lot to families in the US. And then there's an increased investment since we started this program, as Marilyn talked about 5 years ago. We're seeing brands invest more. We've had brands like Fairlife, companies like Kroger, which is one of our partners, are investing in launching whole milks. And they're talking to the consumers, they're exposing space at shelf. So there's been an increase of about $250 million in consumer marketing since 2015 against milk. So let's talk about the consumer. First, that 92 or 94% household penetration, I want you to understand this is a key slide. First on the left, 52% of that 94%, they buy, so that's 65 million households, they buy 33 gallons of milk on average a year. It's only milk. So, but these consumers are looking for more. They're like, give me some new nutritional benefits. Give me more flavor. 92% of milk flavored is chocolate. They want more flavor in their lives. They're exploring new things. Then you have another 42% of milk households, that's 52 million households, they still buy 29 million gallons of milk, but they're buying 5 gallons of alternative product. These households are explorers. If you need to understand these households, the most important thing if you're in the dairy industry, these guys are exploring households. They're not drinking, I would put an example like beer. They're not drinking Bud Light anymore. They're trying the sour beer. They're trying the IPAs. In their lives, they're trying, you look at kombucha. It's a $1 billion category. They're explorers. They're looking at the beverage aisle. So when we think about milk, if we just think they're going to sit there on the sideline and just drink white milk, they're not. They want to try new things. They want new flavors. They want new benefits, probiotic. And we have to give it to them to keep milk relevant with that group of consumers. So let's talk about plant. There's only 4 million households that exclusively buy plant-based beverages that claim to be a milk in the US, and they only buy 9 gallons. That's not our competition. I'm going to show you some slides to prove that. And there's 3 million households that don't buy any, and they're usually health or religious. But in general, milk's a powerhouse in the US, don't forget that. And really what we're losing with the consumers, we're losing about 1.5 ounces of What happened there?
There we go.
We're losing about 1.5 ounces of milk a week in a household. They don't even know we're leaving them because they have so much choice. They have different things in their lifestyle. So that's what we're losing. But when you're in 94% of the U.S., it adds up. And so we're going to talk about what we're doing. But I want you also to understand the drivers of declines, because you have to understand the consumer and the drivers before you can address how to grow the category again. So driver number one is societal changes. 70% of households in the U.S. don't have kids. 70%. So when you think about that, people are having kids later. They're living longer. So you need to make milk relevant. Some of those households, a gallon's not relevant anymore. You know, they need different forms and function. They need cool packaging. Number two, the 30% that are having kids, half of those are minority. They're Hispanic, Asian, African American. Their experience is not like the traditional Caucasian family of the 1970s. So we have to make milk relevant for them. And then of the people who are having kids, 83% of the people having kids, the millennials, they live in urban metro environments. Now, I'll challenge anybody, it's not the grocery stores in Chicago, or in Madison. Go downtown to Chicago. If you guys are out on the West Coast, go look at a grocery store in Seattle, LA, San Francisco, and see the offering, the ethnic beverages that they have. It's a broad swath of products. And so we have to think about that when we're talking to the consumer today. Changing breakfast behaviors. Consumers aren't sitting down eating breakfast anymore. So cereal alone is the decline of cereal consumption has driven 25% of milk's decline. People are eating the bars, Kind bars. They're eating Jimmy Dean's breakfast sandwiches on the go. So we have to think about that competition. Our cheese business is growing because of that. Yogurt grew for a while because they started having yogurt and granola, but that hurts the fluid milk business. And then speaking of growth and out of home, consumers' consumption on the go. We have a partnership with McDonald's where we just helped them relaunch their McCafe business. Our fluid milk sales are growing in that channel. Like, if you guys haven't been to Dunkin' Donuts lately, look at what they've done copying what we did with McDonald's. Go and look at the assortment that these guys are carrying in the coffee channel, and that's fluid milk. And the creamers, so we're seeing solid milk sales there, but it hurts us in the morning at home. They're not sitting at home having milk with cereal. They're they're having their coffee on the go. Also, you think about milk at home. They used to put milk in their coffee at home. Now they're adding cream to their coffee, and the flavored creamers. We'll talk about that. And then ending on one of the final drivers of milk's declines is significant beverage innovation outside of milk. So I want you to understand the breadth of the innovation outside of milk that's taken place since the 1970s. And we're still in 94%. We have still significant gallons being produced. So let's go talk about where that volume's going. So the beverage landscape. In the 1970s, you had milk, soft drinks, soda, and juice. And not even a lot of assortment. When you think about juice at that time, it was in the frozen containers. 80s, all of a sudden bottled water launched. Portability. You started to see more ready-to-drink, smaller juice sizes. In the 90s, Gatorade, energy, recovery, flavored tea. 2000, where you really started to see a significant expansion of beverage. You had functional beverage, energy drink. You think about Red Bull, Monster energy drinks. Consumers are working harder, later, longer. They're looking for sources of energy. You go down here, you start to see that just the introduction of ready-to-drink coffee, but it's still small there. And then you start to see the alternative beverages claiming to be milk, almond. So almond's been around for 15 years now, or almost 20 years now. Remember I talked about we're still 92% of the volume of the consumers are drinking and using at home. The other thing at the end of the 2000s I'll talk specifically about is you start to see coffee being reintroduced. If you think about coffee in the 1970s, it was like watered down, Sanka, Maxwell House, and Folgers. Think about coffee today and what people are paying for coffee today, and we'll talk more about that. And speaking of today, this final column is significant innovation more in the last 5 years. You've got kombucha. It's a $1 billion category. I like to tell the farmers, I go, I'd rather clean my toilet with it than drink it. But it's $1 billion. It's perceived benefits. You start to see cold brew coffee, the drinkable yogurts. So significant beverage innovation has taken place since the 1970s, yet we're still in 94% of the US households. We still have 92 share of that volume that they're buying in the milk category. So where are we losing to? Bottled water and coffee. We can follow consumers. We work with an agency called IRI. We can follow consumers' purchase. So when they leave us, we can see where they're going. They're going to bottled water and coffee. You know, we just measured it a year and a half ago. 53% of our consumers who left, when they're purchasing 1.5 ounce less per week, they're going for bottled water. You know, they're eating lunch at their office, drinking it at there. They're on the go. They're drinking a bottle of water on the go. It's portable. Coffee. Remember we talked about the need for energy. And Chris will highlight this in the future. We're losing way more to coffee. Well, we're benefiting on some of the coffee in our creamer business. So creamers are growing. Tea and juice. Plant-based beverages accounted for about 7% of our declines. And you can do the math. If you look at the end of last year, we were down about 120 million gallons at retail. Plant only grew 10 million. So you do the math, 120, 10, there's about 100 million that went elsewhere. So it just proves this is where the consumer is. But look at the innovation that's taken place in these two areas in the last 20 years. Water. You've got technology. You've got aluminum cans, reusable, that they're selling. You've got aseptic technology, Keurig in the coffee world. Like I said, they redefined coffee. You didn't have to pour 4, 8, 6 ounces and try to figure out how much you need. Here's a pod, you throw it in, and boom, you got it to go. Premiumization. Fiji water, smart water. People are paying $30 to $50 a gallon for premium water with crazy claims. $30 to $50 a gallon. And we're selling milk at $3.88, the powerful nutrition in milk. You know, if we just help launch Fairlife, it's almost $10 a gallon. Who's saying that we can't sell milk plus beverages at $15 to $20 a gallon? Same thing with coffee. These coffee beverages, 8 to 10 ounces, selling for $3.99 each. We're selling 120 ounces for $3.99. There's a lot of opportunity for premiumization of milk. Health focused, again, vitamin water, coffee protein with MCT oil. You know, all these claims out there that consumers don't even know what they mean, but they're spending more for it. But it's keeping the category relevant for the consumer. They're bringing news to the category. Not everything will stick, but they're bringing news to the category. And that's important. Consumers want to feel like you're taking care of them and listening to them. More recently, water. You know what's driven the growth of water the last decade? Flavor and carbonization. Think about LaCroix. It's a billion-dollar business. Bai, it's a billion-dollar business. You know, more recently, you're seeing, you know, all the sparkling waters being introduced. And then same thing with coffee, the portability of coffee. The ready-to-drink coffee, the Dunkin' Donuts product, that category is $4 billion and growing at double digits right now. So it's grab and go. I just grab it and go, and it's portable. It's with me wherever I need it. And they've made it coffee and protein shots. They've got nitro. So again, significant innovation there. And then they've taken these concepts and they've brought it to food service. So they're taking it both ways. You know, Starbucks brought their products to retail, and then the water guys are taking it to food service. So a whole spectrum for consumers to try and engage with it. So I talked about, we partner with McDonald's to launch McCafe, so we're seeing growth there. You got to keep it relevant across all these things to continue to grow and keep milk active with today's consumer. So, like, the key thing is you think about, we're losing 1.5 ounces per week per household. So you, in a big multi-billion-dollar category, multi-billion gallons. So one more serving, that's it takes to grow the category. But we need investment. You need investment in innovation. And when you're 94% of the households in the US, you also need to inspire usage. So Chris will talk about ideas we've got and how we can learn from other categories, how they're addressing both the consumer needs and the consumer trends to drive their growth. And I'll wrap up with what we're doing with the Fluid Milk Partners to drive growth on your behalf.
Great, thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Alexander. I work at DMI in our Knowledge and Insights department. And let's talk about today's consumer. You know, people are focused on living a holistic lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle that emphasizes the connection of your mind, your body, and the planet. So it's all about marrying what's good for me and my families to my community and ultimately the earth. And it's really a driving force behind consumers' purchasing decisions. So with consumers' desire for a holistic lifestyle, they want products that fit their specific needs. So when they go to the store, they're asking questions like, Is this good for my body? Will I enjoy it? And do I feel good about buying it? So when we were developing our innovation platforms, we really kept these questions in mind and took them to heart. And there's 3 areas in our innovation that we focus on. The first one answers the question, is this good for my body? And this is peak performance. So this is all about total body and mind optimization. The next one, sensorial experiences. This answers the question, will I enjoy it? So I want experiences that make me feel good. And then finally, answering the question, do I feel good about buying it, is responsible consumption. So what's good for my community and the planet? And within there, there's a plethora of areas where we're seeing trends manifest themselves in the marketplace year after year. And because people are focused on a holistic lifestyle, these trends aren't mutually exclusive. So many products are being launched that tap into multiple consumer needs and multiple trends. So that's what I'm going to focus our time on today, and let's see how the beverage industry is capitalizing on all of these. So starting with peak performance, health is no longer the opposite of illness. It's really now this endless journey towards optimization. And there's 4 pillars that we identified. The first one is basic nutrition. So this takes the macro and micronutrients that are innately present in food. So think trends around proteins, fats, sugars, carbohydrates. Enhanced nutrition is almost basic nutrition plus. What else are consumers looking for in their diets? Plants, whole grains, things like that. Gut and brain health. So people are making the connection now that a healthy gut equals a healthy brain. So what are the trends within this space? And finally, self-explanatory, energy. What are the trends in the energy space? So let's start with basic nutrition. Protein's a fixture in people's diets. But year after year, they're looking to get more of it in their diets. And we actually took a step outside of the beverage industry in this and wanted to see what other categories were doing, successfully leveraging this protein trend. And the first is around snacking and simple, easy to understand sources of protein. You can see up on the screen here, this RX bar has 12 grams of protein, and they have the ingredients listed exactly in the front, and it's stuff everyone knows. Egg whites, almonds, cashews, and dates. Moon cheese is a high-protein cheese snack. I don't know if you guys can see it, but they have on the top here, the ingredients are just cheese. And then Paul mentioned that one of the declines of fluid milk is changing breakfast behaviors. People want breakfast now at the office that's convenient for them, that has added protein in it. And there's so many options now that are available for consumers. Paul had mentioned Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls. Jimmy Dean now you can have in the morning in the microwave, and there's 19 grams of protein in this. And consumers are on the go, they're busy, they're not eating at home as much anymore. So they want snacks and meals that they could put at their desk, in their bag, and quickly have, and ones that are nutritious. So Sargento has their balanced breaks, which are high protein snacks that have cheese, nuts, and dried fruit in them. And finally, one area that I'll talk about a few times in this presentation is this area of permissible indulgence. Halo Top made it okay to eat a pint of ice cream every night if you want to, because they have more protein, lower calorie, and is totally guilt-free for people. So what are some beverage examples that we're seeing? In the dairy space, Oikos just launched Pro Fuel. This has 25 grams of protein in a 16-ounce bottle. And not only that, but they are giving 100 mgs of caffeine in there for extra energy. And Paul had mentioned, we're losing to coffee and water, and this space is innovating across the board. Who would have thought a few years ago you'd turn to water to get protein? Well, this drink out of the UK, VF, has 20 grams of protein in it in a bottle of water. And then same with coffee, 10 grams of protein and a little cup of coffee with milk. And then moving on to sugar. Sugar today is the enemy. Government changes, labeling regulations, people are just looking to consume less sugar. But there's one area where it kind of gets the green light and it's okay, and that's when it comes from natural sources. So products that are sweetened with ingredients like honey, maple, and dates, even if these products have more sugar with these sweeteners than they would white sugar, it's kind of okay in consumers' minds because it's natural. And there's tons of really great examples in the marketplace. In the food service world, Pete's has a honey harvest latte that you can get. And as I mentioned in the beginning, so many beverages in the marketplace now tap into multiple needs and multiple trends. And this is a great example of this Rumble Super Shake, that's vanilla and maple. High protein, sweetened with maple. And then finally, this alternative beverage, Forager. It's a organic probiotic plant shake that is sweetened with dates and bananas. And then enhanced nutrition. So this is all about, as I mentioned, bringing the foods and ingredients that people want more of into beverages. So think of fruits and vegetables for antioxidants, vitamins, spinach, kale, berries, healthy grains and nuts like quinoa, barley, and almonds for added energy in drinks. And then all the way to super powders and the perceived benefits around them. You know, anti-inflammatory or immunity boosters from things like matcha, turmeric, even charcoal. And we're seeing people make these smoothies at home, adding kale, adding almonds, you know, adding whatever they want that's customized for them. Why can't we bring this into the ready-to-drink space in the grocery store? And the US lags in this. You know, these are examples are all over the world outside of the United States. One that's really interesting, it's called Up and Go, and it's out of the UK, and it's a breakfast drink. So it has 15 grams of protein, high in fiber, high in calcium, sweetened with honey, and has whole grain oats inside of it. Paran Cajuba is a brand over down in Brazil, and they have a whole line of milk plus fruit plus grains. So the example that I have up here is quinoa plus strawberry plus banana. And here in the States, we're seeing it in the plant-based world. So this is Evolve. They have their plant protein and greens. So it has 20 grams of protein in it, has greens in it, and also has a carrot ginger flavor. And let's move on to digestive wellness. You know, digestive wellness has been the biggest driver of food and health, and fiber's back. In fact, 44% of US consumers are looking to increase their fiber intake. And there's been a 21% average annual growth in products carrying a fiber claim. Arla launched this in Europe, a fiber yogurt, and I mean, they could not have made fiber bigger and bolder on the package. And then probiotics and fermentation. Over the past 5 years, there's been a 20% growth from 2012 to 2017. And we're seeing this in old world methods, but then they're bringing it to new formats and new flavors. You know, dairy's kind of the original probiotic. You think of kefir and skyr, beverages and things that people have been consuming for centuries. But now they're coming in, there's a cultured cashew beverage that you can get at Whole Foods in a mango flavor. Paul mentioned kombucha, a $1 billion brand. They have really unique flavors like these exotic greens. And Odwalla has a Smobucha line now, which takes a fruit-based smoothie and kombucha, mixing it together. And then gut and brain health. You know, I talked about gut health. Let's talk about brain health. I mean, mental health now for people is just as important as physical health. And people are looking for natural remedies to fight the daily stresses of modern life. And there's two areas that I'll focus on here. And the first one is adaptogenic herbs. So these are natural herbs that their purpose is to counteract the effects of stress in the body. So these are products like, or herbs like ashwagandha, maca, ginseng, moringa. And then on the other end, you know, I've been to a few trend conferences this year, read a bunch of trend reports. You turn on the news, you can't not hear about the legalization of marijuana across the country. And in states where it's legal, CBD oil is popping up in food and beverage. So what it is, it doesn't get you high, it's just the oil that's extracted from the plant, but it's used for de-stressing, anti-anxiety in forms of oils, and it's also in a bunch of beverages, foods, gummies, chocolates, and I think, you know, new product development in the space is going to continue to grow. So what are some examples of beverages in the marketplace? Rebel is an alternative beverage line that's in Whole Foods, and they have about like 15 different SKUs. And this one is their spicy chai ashwagandha. So on the back of their label, they talk about the provenance of ashwagandha, where it comes from, what it does to your body. This middle product I think is pretty cool, tapping into a bunch of consumer needs. It's Joe Froyo, and it's their functional cold brew. So it's a cold brew drink that has caffeine, probiotics, and protein all in one. And then this bright blue colored is called Blue Oxidants by a company called Remedy Organics. And on the front, it's kind of a laundry list of kind of out there ingredients, but that people are starting to recognize and want more of in their diets. Blue spirulina, a natural way to get this bright blue color. MCT oil for enhanced cognition, maca, and prebiotics. So a lot of interesting examples in the marketplace. And then moving on to energy. So, ready to drink coffee and ready to drink coffee with milk, innovation in this space continues to flourish. Paul mentioned, 90% of the ready to drink coffee in the marketplace, which is great for us, has milk in it. And we're seeing new innovation in formats, flavors, sizes. I mean, before it was cold brew, then nitro and draft lattes. Now you can get a sparkling cup of coffee from High Brew. New flavors, again, before it was latte, mocha, caramel. Now you can get a lavender latte. And then new sizes. Originally, it was all about single serve to take on the go. But big brands like Starbucks, private labels now, you can get a multi-serve coffee, a 48 ounce to a half gallon, even larger to keep in your home or at your office. So let's move on to sensorial experiences. And again, these are all about experiences that make you feel good. And as people are embracing this more holistic view of well-being, they're willing to pay more for access to experiences. And this is people young and old across the board. And when it comes to food and beverages, we're seeing it through flavor exploration. Consumers wanting to push the envelope to what they're familiar with, trying new cuisines, new ingredients, new spices, things like that. Multisensorial is all about eating not just with your mouth, but with your eyes and your ears and your hands. And then indulgence. We talk about holistic lifestyle, what's good for me and my body and my mind. Well, what's more comforting than just a really indulgent beverage? And then finally, customization. So people wanting products that, whether they are or they think they are, designed specifically for them. So flavor exploration. Florals are in full bloom. So these are ingredients like hibiscus, lavender, elderflower, and rose. And these were ones, a couple years ago that were just limited to the tea section or the beauty section in the stores. And now we're seeing it pop up in a plethora of beverages, and they just lend themselves really nicely to dairy. They're a soft, subtle flavor, not too extreme to your taste buds. Trader Joe's has a blueberry lavender flavored almond beverage. There's energy drinks that are all natural, that are lavender and elderflower, raspberry and elderflower flavored. There's rose lattes. There's lavender milk, which is absolutely delicious. And even Lifeway has a kefir, a limited edition that is hibiscus and rhubarb pie. And then multisensorial. So as I mentioned, this is all about incorporating an element of surprise. Sharing food through social media, it's not dying down. And restaurants are continuing to push the envelopes to give consumers a full experience when they dine. So in the beverage world, we're seeing this in glitters, popping candies, flames, smoke. So this is an example of a beverage down in Florida. It's their smoky old fashioned. It's a typical old fashioned that you can get anywhere, but they elevate it a little bit by having an on-hand liquid smoke gun. So when it comes to your table and they unveil it, it's almost like a witch's cauldron almost. So just a whole experience around a pretty basic drink. And then color changes. So this is a butterfly pea flower cold brew latte from Starbucks in Malaysia. And butterfly pea flower, so I was at the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago earlier this year, and they cover a lot of food and beverage trends, but these aren't super niche trends, and these aren't trends that are going to be 5 to 10 years down the line. These are mainstream, and butterfly pea flower was there on multiple occasions. So what it is, it's similar to a green tea in taste and nutritional profile, but when you steep it, it's dark blue in color. And then you combine it with an acidic beverage like lemonade, and it swirls and it turns purple, so you get this cool color changing property. And then finally, this area of you're eating one thing and it's actually something completely different. So this is an example of a smoked ham from a restaurant in New York City called Duck's Eatery. And this ham takes 7 days to make. It's brined, it's basted, it's baked, it's glazed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when it comes to your table and you cut into it, it's actually a watermelon, and it's bright red in color. And this thing totally went viral. You couldn't get a reservation, and it cost $75 at the end of the day for a watermelon. So just really bizarre, creative ways to bring consumers in and give them this unexpected experience. And then indulgence. So this whole mindset of like treat yourself is all with indulgent beverages. Cheese teas. So this is something that's native to China and Taiwan. And they take a refreshing cold tea like a oolong or rose tea, and they top it with a cheesy, foamy, almost like cream cheese-like top. So you get this kind of juxtaposition of super refreshing and floral and indulgent and savory on top, and it pairs really well together. I mentioned color changes. Dunkin' Donuts has this Cosmic Culotta that they launched to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, and it's this super bright, almost cosmic looking slushie. And slushies now, before it was kind of like 7-Eleven owned Slurpees and that was it, and you know, we've moved on. They're everywhere now, and we're seeing them in high-end restaurants, in bars with boozy slushies you could get, in retail. So big opportunity in this space as well. And then there's nothing more comforting than just something nostalgic, something that brings you back to your childhood when times were simpler. And we're seeing these nostalgic flavors in the marketplace. So in the food service world, Arby's just launched a s'mores milkshake. We're seeing peanut butter and jelly flavors. Donuts are still having their moment. So all of these flavors and foods and ingredients that kind of bring you back to childhood. And then customers wanting personalized, customized product offerings. And there's a whole like spectrum of this, from the fun and simple to kind of the very, very ultra customized. So on the fun end and simple, it's just products that I want. So this is a company called Bruisley's Teas. They're down in San Antonio, and you can get a split cup. It's as simple as that. You don't want to buy, you know, a small beverage of two things. You want to try two, so you can get a split cup. There's Duck Donuts is a donut shop, I think in Portland, and you can build your own donuts. So you go in there and you have your, you can pick a cake donut, let's say, and then you pick the type of glaze, the toppings, etc. And then companies are having people put actually their faces on products. So M&Ms, you can get personal with them. You can send a picture of yourself, your family, or friends, and get a package of M&Ms with your face on it. Kellogg's did this with Pop-Tarts as well. You can get your face on a Pop-Tart and also have a customized message in the box. So it's just fun, playful ways that these big brands and big companies are bringing customization to consumers. And then we're seeing beverage lines that aren't flavor-based. So you're not picking a certain beverage because you like raspberry, because you like ginger. You're picking it based on the functional need. So this is a line called Smart Fruit, and you can pick it based on, they have a flavor detox, they have one immunity, one energize. So it's product lines based on consumers' functional needs that they're looking for. And then moving on to diets. So Habit is a company where they want to provide customized diets to you. You send them your cholesterol information, your weight, if you want to lose some weight, and they'll tell you what you need to be eating. And then finally, on the complete other end is DNA diets. So this is a company, you send them your specific DNA from Ancestry.com or 23andMe, and they analyze your DNA, and they will send you a super hyper customized diet based solely on you and your DNA. And finally, responsible consumption. So this answers the question, do I feel good about buying this? You know, as people move farther away from the farm, farther away from production, they crave storytelling and education to bring them back to the farm. So there's two areas here. The first one is sustainable living. You know, outside of cost and taste, there's several other factors that people are weighing when they're making beverage choices. You know, were these animals cared for humanely? Is this product sustainable? What is their carbon footprint? What are the social issues? And then provenance. This is just the power of storytelling, and I'll go more into this. So for sustainable living, you know, plastics now are a global issue. It's the front and center around the world, whether big brands, consumers, small brands, NGOs, governments, people around the globe are looking for ways to reduce plastic and rethink plastic. So it's about waste reduction, reusing and recycling, thinking of new packaging. You know, CNN talked about how in 2050, plastics will outweigh fish in the ocean. You know, they're taking over our landfills. Their greenhouse gases that they're emitting is destroying our environment. So that we have to think of new ways to reinvent plastic. One company that I think is really cool that I wanted to share, their whole notion is to bring back the milkman. So they're called Loop, and they're working with big companies like Unilever and Nestle, where you get your groceries delivered to you in an insulated bag, and it's used, all the products have aluminum reusable packaging. And it's just simple. You consume them, you bring them back, they pick it up, they give you new ones, loop, 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 no plastic waste. So really cool, really innovative, but just in the early stages. And another area around sustainable living is this movement around upcycling. So it's taking something that would normally be thrown out and repurposing it to something of greater value. And there's 3 areas within upcycling when it comes to beverages and food. And the first is ugly food. You know, so much food and produce is wasted because there's a blemish on it or it doesn't look right aesthetically, and it gets tossed. So companies are taking those food and vegetable items, fruits and vegetables, and repurposing them. So this is Ugly's potato chips. They're chips. They taste exactly like regular chips. They're used just with potatoes that have a little bit of blemish on them. There's a movement around root to stem cooking. So there's cookbooks out there that show you how to use the entire fruit or vegetables. So you can have a garlic scape pesto, pickled watermelon rinds, or a slaw made with carrot skins. And then recycled scrap. So this is taking all of the products from that are the spent grains after beer making or the whey after yogurt and cheese making and repurposing them into beverages. So some examples, this Super Frau whey drink. So this takes the reused or the discarded whey from cheese and yogurt making and puts it into a really refreshing beverage called Walk This Way. It's lemon and elderflower flavored. Toast is a company that they partner with bakeries, and they take their leftover bread at the end of the day and use it then in their beer making process. And finally, Canvas. So they take the spent grain from beer making and put it into their fiber and protein shakes. There's a lot of really cool examples about upcycling out there. And then finally, provenance and storytelling. You know, as transparency and knowing where your food comes from is top of mind for consumers, people want to know the origins of their products. They want to know that their brand that they're buying stands for something, that it's credible and believable. And then also, you know, I had talked about flavor exploration, people wanting to try new cuisines, new flavors, new spices. Adding regional touches or global influences to your product kind of transport people around the world and have this whole global experience and story then when they're consuming their products. So some examples, I mean, Paul talked about super premium Fiji water. If you go to their website, they try and transport you to Fiji. Beautiful graphics, nice music, things like that. Emmy is a dairy company over in Switzerland, and they have their Mexico edition. So graphics to transport you to Mexico. They talk about the coffee farms that are in Mexico, the farmers, what makes these coffee beans unique. And finally, I know this isn't beverage, but I thought it was pretty cool. Danone has their Danone du Monde, and it was a line of regional yogurts. So you could get traditional lassi yogurt from India, or Lebanon from Lebanon, and skyr from Iceland, just in one different SKU in the grocery store. So a lot of cool examples with provenance and storytelling as well. So to wrap it up, I mean, I hope you guys learned something new. There's a lot of really interesting trends and a lot of really amazing stuff that we're doing at DMI. So I'm going to pass it back to Paul to talk about that.
I think wrapping up on Chris's piece, one of the key facts to take away too is the average grocery store in the last 5 years in the U.S. has added 670 new items of beverages. You add that in math, that's like 12 to 16 feet, depending on the number of faces, that they've added because of all these new beverages. Think about it, 16 feet of new beverages. Yet we're still maintaining 94% household penetration. And one other fact, the only thing that's declining in milk is the low fat, fat-free. And then consumers are like, what'd you take out of it to make it low fat? Look at all the things they're adding to these beverages to add the functional, the taste, the experience. So there's the opportunity for us, is to take advantage of what consumers are looking for and then relaunch and bring news to those the milk segment. So let's talk about how we're addressing it. So we have two visions. As you heard, we need to make and keep milk relevant. Whether it's high protein, low sugar, whether it's look, we have the choice. We can say we're not going to play with plant-based and let them keep walking, or we can keep them in the milk section and add plant-based to real milk. I see people are saying that we shouldn't play there. I'm like, oh my gosh, then they're going to leave us. You have to put the consumer first, otherwise you'll fail. And what's happened with milk in the last 25 years? They didn't put the consumer first. They made it cheaper in a cheaper gallon and put billions behind that. And I'm not going to put up with it. We're going to put the consumer first. We're going to win. So again, Dairy Gold, high protein. Kroger, we launched a whole milk flavor. Cherry cordial is one of the Kroger's top selling ice cream SKUs. We put it in whole milk and it's doing extremely well in Kroger. So that's what I'm talking about. Give consumers good experiences for the need states that they live in. Sometimes they want high indulgent products to comfort them. Sometimes they want energy. So that when you think about the energy side, we can be the competition. Make sure that tea section that Chris talked about is growing. Make sure it's using real dairy. Make sure the coffee is using real dairy. All the nutritional health beverages. We talked about the boomers and the nutritional needs they have for bone health. So we need to make sure that's using dairy. And then finally, I don't know if you guys have seen this summer, Pabst Blue Ribbon tested a hard coffee, malt liquor with milk. It tested so well, they just announced they're launching it nationally next year. Taking dairy in new ways is a huge opportunity for us as we look at the industry and making sure milk's a key part of the beverage occasions in consumers' lives. And so what we've done, you guys may know, 65% of the volume of milk that goes through the grocery stores in the U.S. is now under a retailer brand. 65%. That means Walmart, Kroger, Amazon, wherever you're at locally, they control 65% of the volume. No one's telling them what to do with the milk that they've taken over the brands. So we had to inspire these guys that there's opportunities to grow with milk. So we invested in, Chris just showed you a snapshot of our global trend study. We go extremely deep. We looked at the growth pockets and what's driving beverage across retail. We looked at the occasions. When there's 8 billion beverage occasions a week. When you think about when you're drinking a beverage, you can be at work, you can be on a tractor. There's different occasions. Where does milk play versus other beverages? And then most importantly, we looked at the next generation consumer. So these kids now that are 6 to 18, and they're changing. Here's a fun fact. When I grew up, and you guys probably too, you drank what mom and dad put in the refrigerator and what they told you to at the table. Today, mom and dad are besties with the kids. And what that means from the bestie side is, by the time the kid's 10 years old, they're deciding 75% of what beverages are in the household. That means they're going shopping with mom and dad. They're pulling up their Instagram saying, I want this, mom. Mom and dad are like, okay, boom. So they're migrating fast. They're drinking coffee in middle school. They're drinking smoothies by the time they're 6 because they're dictating to mom what they want. So we have to understand the generations are changing. It's a little scary. My kids they're in the 25%. No, we haggle. And we also talked about packaging. If you look at the packaging today, the powerful nutrition we bring, and the gallon's so generic, it's embarrassing, right? So we said, we went to the retailer and said, this is how you talk about milk. This is the positive nutrition. This is what consumers want to know. So we spent the money to educate them and talk about it, rather than scaring them with all the claims that are out there. So then we also said, look, if the industry hasn't been innovative as they should have been, so we're going to invest in innovation. We're going to inspire innovation. So we went and tested a bunch of concepts with consumers around the categories Chris just talked about. So we looked at performance-driven items. We looked at great flavors and experiential items. We looked at future-forward items. So I'm going to just give you a snapshot of some close-in things that scored well, and then some further out things that we continue to track that you may see launch in new and unique ways. So, in the basic nutrition area, low sugar is a definite. You've got a lot of people with diabetes. You've got a lot of people looking for the keto diets and things like that. So there's a way to reposition things like low sugar. They're looking for vitamins. They're looking for antioxidants. And so we tested some things like we called antioxidant milk. We looked at chock full, which, again, these are brands to inspire, and we did it generically so we could share this with any retailer and any brand. And then they could put their own brand on it with their own graphics. But no added sugars. So if you can take your white milk today, and you can add fruit puree, and it's a no added sugar. So think about the taste. It's really just a no added sugar smoothie, but great flavor for the kids. Well, as I talked about, fat-free milk's declining. So we said, look, we look at other categories. You know, we borrow and steal whatever we can. That's what Henry Ford said, right, when he built the truck. And so when you think about hinted, we've got this fat-free, low-fat, 1%, 2% SKUs in there that are declining. Throw some hint of flavor in there, a hint of vanilla, a hint of strawberry, like real fruit, and call it hinted. Low sugar, but great flavor. So that's an opportunity to stabilize that fat-free section. And then come out with some kid products. So we looked at throwing strawberry and banana in with white milk. Again, natural strawberry and banana, and he scored very well with kids. And then milk on nuts. Cool packaging, again, with added nutrition they're looking for, perception. Keep them in our category versus letting them walk. And then also adding oat to it, or smoothies, and just different territories. But these are ones of, like, we tested hundreds of concepts for phase 1 and 2 that are coming up. And then further out things. Chris talked about everybody's stress. Life's tough, I guess. I mean, people can't, so on. And so CBD, everybody wants some CBD, right? And so but we have to put an anchor. Is there an opportunity for CBD in milk? You think about Colorado. You guys live in Colorado, you know, Washington State. You had legalization there, but how do you add flavor and benefits and nutrition? Moon milk. If you guys go on the internet, if anything and you're done, type up moon milk or golden milk. Those are trending areas that people are looking at today to help with sleep. You know, half of society doesn't sleep well. Think about if we get them to drink 6 ounces a night before they go to bed, or even 4 ounces, that fixes the 1.5 ounces that we're declining. And then sensorial, you know, Hispanics. There's a lot of the households having kids today are Hispanic, bringing some of the Hispanic flavors to the U.S. with the horchata. Areas we're exploring here, cake shakes, birthday cake flavored milk. Who wouldn't love different birthday cake flavored milk? Or another example would be cereal flavored milk. Those are some of the concepts that have scored very well. And bringing nitro. It's hot in beer, you know, they're doing it in coffee. Imagine nitro chocolate milk or a root beer float with milk. That's what I mean. So it's now we're working with the processing industry to find the capability in plants to make these type of products for retailers. And then Chris talked about upcycling. You know, we're here in Wisconsin. Think about it, all the remnants that aren't for the pretty Door County cherries, throwing that in milk, Door County milk, you know, things like that. So there's a lot of great opportunity areas. So what we've done is we've taken these concepts on the roadshow to the leading brands in the U.S. and also to the leading retailers in the U.S. We've actually had several leading retailers. Kroger's a public partnership. We have other retailers. We're actually leading and building their innovation pipeline for 2021 based upon these concepts. So I can't wait when we're able to show you guys the actual products that are being launched from these concepts. And then not only are we testing innovation in product, we're testing innovation with packaging. So, you know, when you think about a kid age 5 to 10, if you guys have a kid age 5 to 10 that can lift a gallon, I'd love to see that and pour a gallon without spilling. My kids could never do it. Not until they're around 10 to 11 can they actually pour a gallon. So we know MilkPep's done a study, 25% of kids would drink more milk if they had easier way to access it. So now, you know, you'd think the processing industry would figure it out, but so we're testing these concepts with consumers, and we're getting tremendous scores. So now we're working with retailers to test these things, hopefully in the market in the next 12 months. And then I have 2 slides, kind of different off the topic, but you guys have to understand, as we show these opportunities to retailers, we're up against alternatives that are selling against dairy, saying dairy is declining. So we're using the facts to preserve space. So when you look at flavored milk's 1.6 billion, 92% chocolate. It's bigger than almond milk. But no one's telling them, hey, look, give me more space for my flavored milk that I'm coming out with. You look at white milk, lactose-free is 1.1 billion. It's bigger than everything. It's almost as big as almond milk. As we launch these new probiotic products, nutritional products, high protein products, give me the space, and I'm going to tell you why it's important. You look at eggnog, it's out there for 2 months. Eggnog does 190 million in 2 months. That's what coconut, almost what soy does in a whole 12 months. And that's why everything outside of almond and oats this tiny is declining in the plant-based. And here's the slide, the one slide I leave with every retailer I meet with. I said, milk sales rates crush plants. So when you think about it, you look at the conventional white milk, You know, the highest is $382 per point of distribution. Skims at $113. And they'll tell me Skim's declining. I go, yeah, it's declining, and it's still $113. You've got down here flavored milk at $47 per point of distribution. Lactose-free is $51, organics $56. Refrigerated plant-based alternatives, $39 per point of distribution. So I say, you tell me they're growing 10%, so you take $39 times 10%, that's what, 43? That's still not, take it out of your own space. All that innovation, and so in the last 4 years, I looked at the numbers, and in plant-based, almond is the only thing that's grown. You back out almond, everything else in plant-based has declined in the last 4 years. So I'm working with the retailers. I'm like, let plant-based eat themselves. And as I showed you our numbers, we're not declining because of plant. We've got water. So as we bring this innovation in dairy to shelf, give us the dairy innovation because we'll grow the category. You know, a flavored milk's at 47. It's going to outperform any new plant you put in there. So that's what we're trying to do on your behalf to educate the retailers to make sure that they're understanding the relevance that milk's still powerful, impactful, and there's a room for opportunity for growth with a lot of product innovation, packaging innovation. So what's that mean? What have we done for DMI the last 5 years since we've started this? Just in the last 5 years, and we've supported the launch of several products from Fairlife, Dairy Gold, DFA through the Kemp's brand, Shamrock, the single-serve grab-and-go products. We're the first product with the cold brew coffee and milk. Tons of copycats have launched in the last 2 years since then. Rockin' Protein, Energy just won Product of the Year in the convenience store channel. So, and we're also taking dairy to other categories like wholesome smoothies made with whole milk. Sales from our science efforts. Whole milk's growing. We prove fat is back and whole milk's growing. We prove the science behind recovery. Nothing better than sport recovery than chocolate milk. And in lactose-free, we funded the launch of partnering with Lactaid to prove the value of lactose-free. And then we also, because we partner with these guys, we've seen $1 billion in infrastructure investment over the last 5 years. And we're just starting to see some of the products that $1 billion in infrastructure can launch. And like I said, more brands are spending and behind the category. So that's it for us. Again, thank you for the opportunity to talk about milk. Thank the growth opportunities in beverage, and hopefully we got some time for questions.
No? No, we're good, yeah. All right. No questions? All right, well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Just a reminder, thanks again to Paul and Christina very much for their presentation. But just a reminder to fill out your sheet with the evaluation of the seminar today, and then turn it in the table in the back of the room. That would be great. And we hope you enjoy your time at World Dairy Expo.